December 21, 1944, near Bastogne, Belgium. The snow had buried the road so deeply that the dead looked almost peaceful. Private Leon Mercer saw the German first. The man was kneeling in the ditch with both hands up, too weak to run, too frozen to speak. White breath shook out of him in short bursts. His helmet was gone. His coat hung open, and around his neck, swaying gently over a filthy field gray tunic, was a string of American dog tags. Not one pair. Dozens. They clinked together like small pieces of metal bone. For a moment, nobody moved. Staff Sergeant Bill Hanley raised his rifle. Jesus Christ! Corporal Eddie Velez stepped closer, then stopped so suddenly his boots slid in the ice. "Those are ours," he whispered. The prisoner looked from one face to another. Lips cracked and blue. There was dried blood on his chin. One eye was swollen shut. He did not look proud. He looked hunted. Then Mercer saw something worse. Each tag had a different name on it. Some were bent. Some were blackened. One still had a piece of frozen skin caught in the chain. Nobody lowered a weapon. Nobody spoke. Behind them, the trees stood silent in the dawn like witnesses. Hanley grabbed the prisoner by the collar and ripped the chain sideways. Tags spilled across the man's chest and rang against each other. Mercer dropped to one knee and caught one before it fell into the snow. PFC Thomas Weaver, 101st Airborne. Mercer stared at it, then turned it over with shaking fingers. There was no mistake. Velez swallowed hard. "He took them off our dead." "Or worse," Hanley said. The German tried to speak. Nothing came out at first except steam and pain. Then he forced the words through broken teeth. "Bit. No shoot." Lieutenant Arthur Kell came up from the rear of the patrol, scarf wrapped to his nose, pistol already drawn. "What is this?" Nobody answered right away. Mercer held up the tag in his glove like evidence in a church. "Sir, he had these on him." Kell looked down. The blood drained from his face so fast Mercer noticed it even in the cold blue light. "How many?" Hanley yanked the chain free and let it hang from his fist. "Too many, sir." Behind them, Medic Paul Garrison bent over another body half buried under the roadside drift. He brushed snow from the shoulder patch. American. Fresh. Garrison looked up slowly. "This one's been dead less than a day." The patrol spread out along the ditch and found 4 more Americans under the snow, stripped of gloves, watches, and identification. One had been shot through the mouth. Another still had bandages around both hands, meaning he had probably come from an aid station before someone marched him into the trees and finished it there. No one said the word massacre. They did not need to. Kell ordered the prisoner searched. Mercer found a Luger, 2 stale crusts of bread, a photograph of a woman holding a child, and in the left coat pocket a small notebook wrapped in oilcloth. On the first page was a name written in neat German script, Die Freiter Lucas Reiner. On the second page were dates, rough map marks, and short entries Mercer could not read. "Get a translator," Kell said. "We are the translator right now," Hanley muttered. "He's wearing the message." The prisoner swayed where he stood. He kept glancing at the dog tags in Hanley's hand. Not with pride, Mercer realized, but with dread, as if the metal around his neck had already condemned him. Kell made the decision fast. "Take 'em back alive. I want witnesses. I want statements, and I want every prisoner in that barn camp separated before this spreads." They reached the collection point at St. Hubert Farm just after noon. The barn smelled of wet wool, manure, cordite, and fear. 32 German prisoners sat under guard against the far wall, blankets over their shoulders, eyes hollow from hunger and shellfire. None of them spoke when Reiner was marched in, but several saw the tags, and one old sergeant actually crossed himself. Captain Roy Delaney, who ran the holding site, listened to Kell's report without blinking. Then he asked the one question nobody wanted to hear. "Do we have proof he killed them himself?" Hanley slammed the dog tags on Delaney's desk. "What more do you need?" "A court that holds up tomorrow," Delaney said. "Not a firing line in a snowstorm." Lieutenant Kell said nothing. He knew the difference between anger and procedure, but he also knew what his men had seen. Outside, a Belgian woman waited beside the well, hands red and raw under a black shawl. She had been brought in that morning with her teenage son after wandering out of the woods. Her name was Elise Dufour. When translator Sergeant Martin Koenig showed her the tags, she covered her mouth and began to cry before he could even ask a question. She said she had seen American prisoners marched past her cottage the previous evening by retreating Germans. She said one soldier had stumbled because his hands were tied. She said a young German with a swollen face kept looking back at the prisoners as if he could not stop hearing them breathe. Koenig translated every word into a room that kept growing quieter. Then Elise said something else. One of the Americans had called out in French before the shots started. He had asked for water. The room went still. Even the Germans on the wall lowered their eyes. By late afternoon, the report had moved from company to battalion, from battalion to division liaison, and from there into the cold machinery of an army trying to keep itself from freezing to death. The front was collapsing and reforming by the hour. Fuel was short. Ammunition was shorter. Men were sleeping in holes with their boots on and their rifles across their chests. Yet somehow, through all of it, word of the dog tags kept climbing. At dusk, Delaney ordered Reiner locked alone in the grain shed under 2 armed guards. No one argued for comfort. The real danger was not escape. It was what angry Americans might do before morning. Mercer drew the first watch with Hanley. Through the cracked boards they could hear Reiner coughing in the dark. After a while, Hanley said, "If he pulled those tags off, men who were alive, I don't know if I can stand there and wait for paperwork." Mercer did not answer right away. He was thinking about Weaver. He did not know the man, had never met him, yet the little metal plate in his pocket felt heavier than ammunition. Finally he said, "That's why they put us on the door, Sarge. So somebody still can." Near midnight, 3 jeeps came through the farm gate with blackout lights dim as candles. Officers got out first. Then a taller figure in a heavy overcoat stepped into the frozen mud. Pearled ivory pistols, riding boots, helmet straps loose, eyes like sharpened steel. General George S. Patton had arrived. Nobody announced him. They just noticed the way men straightened before he reached the porch. Patton took the written statements first. He read them under the lantern without speaking, gloved hand turning each page with maddening calm. Snow dusted his shoulders and melted there. Delaney stood beside him. Kell stood on the other side. Hanley and Mercer waited in the yard, hearing only the rustle of paper and the wind rubbing bare branches together. At last Patton looked up. "The prisoner?" Reiner was brought from the shed, wrists bound, face gray with fatigue. He blinked into the lantern light and then saw who stood in front of him. Whatever strength he had left seemed to leave his knees. Koenig arrived to translate. Patton did not raise his voice. "Ask him where he got the tags." Koenig translated. Reiner answered quickly, too quickly, saying he found them on bodies after artillery fire near the road. Patton paused. "Ask him why one of the dead had tied hands." Reiner froze. The yard went silent except for the wind. Koenig repeated the question more softly. Reiner looked at the ground, then at the barn, then at the American faces around him. Finally, he whispered something so low Koenig almost missed it. He says the prisoners were being moved. One tried to run. The others shouted. His sergeant ordered the shooting. Patton kept staring at him. "And the tags?" Koenig translated again. Reiner swallowed. "He says he took them after. He says he did not know why." Patton stepped closer. "You knew," he said. Reiner broke. Patton ordered a trial, the tags returned, and the dead buried by name. Mercer carried that silence home forever afterward. What would you have done? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want more World War II stories where humanity, war, and difficult decisions collided, make sure to subscribe.